You know how we generally use the impersonal si to make those broad, generic statements, right? Like people do this or one does that. Well, what happens when we shift that exact same structure into the passato prossimo, the past tense? Suddenly it transforms from this distant, kind of detached observation into a deeply shared personal experience. So here is our quick roadmap for today. 1. Present versus past tense. 2. A shared personal experience. 3. The core grammar structure. 4. Making nouns agree. 5. The reflexive verb twist. And finally, 6. Adjectives in the plural. Let's get to it. Starting off with section 1, present versus past tense, and how this totally shifts our perspective. Okay, so we're super used to describing habits in the present tense. Think about it. You might say, people dance at parties, just to state a general, undeniable fact about the world. But ask yourself, how do we talk about those events once they've already happened? And more importantly, what if we were actually there? Basically, what happens to the language when the party is over? When we compare the present and the past, you can really see the shift. In the present tense, we'd say, in vacanza si mangia molto. Literally, people eat a lot on vacation. It's just a general statement about typical human behavior. But flip that into the passato prossimo. In vacanza si è mangiato molto. Boom. The English translation instantly shifts to, we ate a lot on vacation. We moved from a vague habit about what random people do to this highly inclusive statement where we actually participated in eating way too much on that specific trip. And what's really interesting here is how the exact same core verb transforms just based on the tense. Alla festa si balla fino a tardi describes a typical generic party scenario anywhere in the world. But change that verb to the past tense, si è ballato, and suddenly you're recounting a very specific shared memory of dancing the night away. You're no longer an outside observer. You are literally right there on the dance floor. Let's look at one more example to really hammer this home. In Italia si beve molto caffè is a general cultural habit. People drink a lot of coffee in Italy. But say, si ha bevuto molto caffè durante il viaggio, and it brings it right down to a personal level. The crucial takeaway is that translating the past tense version as people drank a lot of coffee just feels completely unnatural. The speaker is implicitly part of the action, so we is absolutely the most accurate translation. Moving right along to section 2, a shared personal experience and the cultural meaning behind it. You see, rather than being completely detached, this past tense structure is predominantly used for social and collective experiences. We're talking about trips, dinners, parties, vacations, public events, basically moments spent together with other people. Using the si impersonale in the past tense for these specific events creates a really powerful sense of collective participation. All right, section 3, the core grammar structure. Let's look at the actual blueprint. The mechanical construction here is wonderfully simple if you just follow 3 steps. Step 1, start with the impersonal particle si. Step 2, add the auxiliary verb. Now, here is an absolutely vital rule to remember. Unlike other compound tenses in Italian that might use avere, this structure always, without fail, uses the auxiliary essere, period. And finally, step 3, you just tack on your past participle. Let's see that blueprint in action. Si è mangiato bene, si è viaggiato molto, si è parlato troppo. Notice how there's no specific noun following the verb in any of these phrases? When there is no noun following the verb in this basic structure, the past participle acts kind of like a chameleon resting on a neutral background. It just stays right there in the standard masculine singular form, ending in O. Next up, section 4, making nouns agree and how the grammar expands. So, what happens if a plural noun does follow the verb? Well, the past participle has to shift to agree with it. Take, si sono mangiati molti dolci. We ate many desserts. Because dolci is a plural noun, our auxiliary changes to sono, and mangiati now ends in e. The exact same thing happens with si sono visitati molti musei. In these cases, the structure moves closer to what traditional Italian grammar calls the si passivante, directly linking the verb's ending to that plural object that was acted upon. All right, let's get into section 5, the reflexive verb twist, or how to solve the CC problem. So whenever you have a reflexive verb in this impersonal structure, you swap out the first C and use ci si plus essere and then your past participle.
in our new reflexive twist with CC, because it strongly implies group inclusion, the past participle automatically jumps to the masculine plural form, ending in E. Let's hear how that actually sounds. Ci si è divertiti molto. We had a great time. Durante il viaggio ci si è stancati parecchio. We got quite tired. Because the speaker is implicitly included in the group experience, the past participle with reflexive verbs almost always appears in the masculine plural form. You can hear it super clearly in the I endings of divertiti, stancati, and salutati.
Now, there is one very logical exception to this masculine plural rule. If the inclusive group is explicitly and entirely female, the participle gracefully adapts to match. So in a phrase like noi ragazze, meaning we girls, it becomes ci si è divertite molto. The ending shifts to the feminine plural e, perfectly matching that specific group of women.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 6, adjectives in the plural, the final piece of the puzzle.
The rule here requires a bit of balancing between strict grammar and real-world context. When we use an adjective to describe our impersonal we, the grammatical verb sier remains technically singular. But because the underlying meaning obviously points to a collectively understood group of people, the adjective boldly takes the masculine plural form. For instance, look at quando si è stanchi è meglio riposare, or dopo il viaggio si è spesso stanchi. We don't use the singular stanco, we use the plural stanchi. This structure seamlessly combines strict grammatical impersonality, that singular si è, with a deeply implicit plural collective meaning. As you continue your language journey, think about the powerful way these simple little shifts in endings invite your listener right into your memories. It perfectly bridges the gap between a generic statement and a personal connection,